You all seem to enjoy my previous video on the shortwave radio nets, which originated in the 1960s, where people across the United States were invited to share their UFO sightings and experiences. You also really enjoyed my use of AI imagery as an alternative visual aid due to the fact that there's not much material relating to these nets out there. In that video, I promised you it would never happen again, but I've got a radio story so obscure that there's nothing to show you. Well, one picture of this guy. So I've employed the use of AI to help tell it. Please don't worry, however, this isn't going to be a regular thing going forward, and it's not what the channel's turning into, so bear with me. Oh, and please don't think this is easy content. It takes hours to get the prompts to the point where they work. I use a paid service so they're as good as they can be, and then do a lot of editing and put together collages like this, so enjoy. 1984 saw a Massachusetts company called Teleplanet Services Incorporated offering what they said was perhaps the next best thing to travelling into space for Earthlings. According to an Associated Press story back in 1984, a man by the name of Stanley J. Kaplan was trying to start a common carrier service that would enable anyone to send brief messages to the Sun, the Moon, any of the planets in the solar system, or a designated star outside the solar system. The premise was that for a $5 fee, the company, based out of Sudbury, Massachusetts, was prepared to help people, quote, reach out and break out of their earthbound existence. According to Stanley, the initial publicity about this plan had produced no less than 175 orders. Because Kaplan intended to transmit binary digitized radio messages, as he called them, he required FCC approval, but they didn't see it the way he did. He said it wasn't the average communications that they deal with, but rather a new dimension, and that their rules weren't equipped for it. Stanley believed that the FCC were scared of the concept. In September of 1984, the FCC denied his first request for special temporary authority to operate a common carrier one-way paging station in Sudbury for the purpose of offering specialized extraterrestrial communication services to the public. Quite a mouthful, but that is verbatim. They claim that Teleplanet failed to demonstrate that there was extraordinary circumstances requiring temporary operations that were in the public interest. Stanley felt pessimistic that the FCC was serious about letting the concept get off the ground. Calling the licensing issue a bureaucratic snag, Stanley said that it didn't have anything to do with the service, but rather the jurisdiction, as nobody had ever done this before. It wasn't the end, however. The FCC reclassified the proposal as an application for development of Kaplan's idea. They eventually gave him a license, the wheels started turning, and Space Shot was born in 1985. Now, for a slightly increased price of just $9.98, or £8-ish, or getting on for £26 in today's money, Teleplanet Services would beam a radio message of your choosing out towards the cosmos. Stan now offered the service to customers not only as a way to try to communicate with extraterrestrial life, but also send a high-tech greetings card to friends, family, and loved ones. I'm guessing the emphasis was on the latter. For your $9.98, you'd receive a kit that included suggestions on how to use the service, as well as 17 different locations within the universe where scientists believe life may exist, and one message of no more than 25 words in length. The fee entitled the buyer to one transmission, and any subsequent transmissions were charged at $5. Kaplan said that he could also transmit pictures, but he didn't guarantee that anybody would be home to receive them. Stanley said that Space Shot would boldly take you where no product has gone before. He boasted that a radio message into deep space goes on forever. We're giving people an opportunity to explore space and have a tangible bit of personal immortality. Kaplan, whose other company One Page Enterprises published a radio communications industry newsletter, expected Space Shot to be used primarily as a high-tech greeting card service. He suggested, for instance, wishing a gambling buddy good luck on a new business venture by way of Jupiter, the planet of monetary success. He also said that a lover might beam their sweetheart a Valentine's message or an anniversary card via Venus, the planet of love. If someone wanted to connect with their astrological planet, a Scorpio for example who believed in things such as planetary energies, could send a message to Mars and Pluto, Scorpio's ruling planets, to achieve greater control over their fate and destiny. Of course, on the other hand, it was marketed as a way to send a message to an extraterrestrial being, and the only affordable way to travel into space. Once the transmission was sent, and if indeed it was sent, Teleplanet would mail a copy of the message to the Earthbound recipient in the form of a certificate and a picture of the solar system that included the destination of the message. Time was no object either. Kaplan said that a transmission to the Moon which took 2 seconds cost the same as a message to the 3C9 star system, which took 15 billion years. It's a little bit of immortality, he said. It's something we can leave behind. The Space Shot system used an IBM personal computer as the brains of the operation to chart the course of the stars and planets in order to aim its 1000-watt transmitter at the location chosen. The system allegedly calculated the transmission windows to the celestial object it was to beam towards. The antenna of choice was an 18-foot satellite dish. Scientists who were part of NASA's search for extraterrestrial intelligence said, however, that such transmissions into the cosmos were virtually worthless. Even if someone was able to pick up the relatively low-power transmissions, it's unlikely they'd be able to translate them, the scientists said. I mean, this is pretty obvious, really. Stanley was cautious about Space Shot, saying that the type of service borders on a scam, but he tried to reassure people that it was a very serious service, which could be enjoyed whimsically, despite very real technology. And now we come to the point where the trail of this obscure story goes cold. That's all there is, publicly anyway. The story originated in 1984, and seemed to disappear in 1985. Do you remember this? Do you know Stanley Kaplan? He'd be in his late 70s now. Are you watching this, Stanley? I'd love to hear from you. Did you send a space shot via the Teleplanet service? Let me know in the comments.